Our 5 a.m. wake up feels more and more challenging now. The sun is coming up later and later, and the nighttime air has a little chill to it before the heat of the sun starts warming things back up. After a few weeks of rain, the sky is more consistently a clear blue during the day, and the season is starting to shift towards winter. In the mountains here, it actually can get pretty chilly. When we first came to northern Thailand and people told us about winter here, we laughed. Until we found ourselves shivering together under a shared small blanket in the night because we never thought we would need anything more. But when you live in a wooden house with zero insulation and it drops down to 11 degrees in the night, you want a little more than a thin sheet for warmth. We aren't there yet, but we can sense the change and the subtle shifts in weather that we weren't as aware of this time last year.
I think one thing we overlooked moving to Thailand was how much the heat is affecting everything we do. Today is going to be 36 degrees, but with the humidity, it's going to feel like 40, 42. Laurel has definitely adapted to the heat much better than I have. One thing you might not know is I'm actually allergic to the sun. And not just in the sense where, like, you get burnt. I actually get sun hives when I'm out in the sun for too long. And in Thailand, that happens, like, after 10, 15 minutes. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to this winter so much. I can already feel the change in the air. The mornings are starting to get a little bit cooler. It's bringing new energy to me that I haven't felt in like 6-8 months. I think we're just both excited to get outside a lot this winter and really try and make this garden a beautiful place.
Winter is the busiest time for planting and growing all kinds of vegetables here. So we've begun our seedlings and prepping our beds as our cucumbers, corn, sweet potato, and beans finish producing. Yeah, you want that for the... We've also begun establishing a row of fast-growing nitrogen-fixing and soil-penetrating plants alongside our main garden beds, just to help cover the soil and provide biomass to feed the garden. It might look more like a bunch of weeds at this point, but in time it'll get there. I used to be kind of timid to plant things because I worried about things dying or wasting the seeds. Now I just try to do my best to provide a good environment for the seed to flourish and let the plants tell me what's working or not. There's actually this random pumpkin that decided to start growing by some banana trees on the other side of the field. I have no idea how it got there. But I decided to take the cue and I planted some more squash amongst the trees. We'll see if they like these spots more. A couple have already come up. This season feels a lot more exciting as we have become more comfortable and confident in ourselves, our abilities, and even in our quote-unquote failures here. We made this table to hold seedling trays, but inevitably ants and termites started eating at it, and they weakened the joints to the point where it finally broke. I know people will tell us that we need to treat the bamboo for it to last, but we didn't want to wait or pay for already treated bamboo when there's so much here already. We knew it wouldn't last forever, but this week we were forced to reconfigure the table, and we're hoping that it will last at least a few more months for this growing season. Just try. It sounds so simple, but how often are our fears or our fragile self-images paralyzing us from even trying? I think it's because we've been conditioned to be afraid of failing. That if you set out to do something and it doesn't happen as you planned or imagined, fail. You're a failure. That there's some finality and self-defining consequence to failing. But I think since being here, my perception of what constitutes a failure or a success has really been shifting. Yeah, look how big it is. So when we were in Chiang Mai, we ended up buying a couple different herbs, and I wanted to make kind of like a little tea garden. So we bought apple mint and lemon balm, tarragon, and thyme. Thyme isn't really for tea, but
That'll be for my pasta sauces later on.
these I plan on giving a lot of TLC to, and I'm hoping that they'll survive and they'll provide me with lots of good tea. The mentality of just trying and seeing and doing is one I think that I've really learned a lot from being here, because that seems to be the way that people do things more readily. Just try and see. Just go for it.
Long do.
Yeah, long do. It feels like a very different mentality from Canadian culture, like Western culture, where we have a really big focus on succeeding or failing and have these more like rigid definitions. And there just seems to be a lot more like grace and ease for the space of like learning and trying. It's actually sometimes kind of hard to accept, because I feel like that's a pretty deep conditioning. There is like such a huge spectrum of what can constitute success, and it's really based on like your personal definition and your personal goals.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people pursue the dream of money, like just having money. But I think that's often not actually what people want out of life. You want money to do something with. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where your dream and your passion lies. For us, having a lot of money would be great, because we have something very specific we want to do with that money. But the truth is, we're not there yet. So I think for us, it's looking at the next step in terms of what can we accomplish with what we have? What are the ways that we can step into more of this lifestyle with the resources and abilities and time that we have right now, and not looking at it as all or nothing. I think there was a time where we looked at it as if we had to achieve this project, we had to build this massive thing, or we wouldn't be successful. But I think there's so many values within that dream that we can live out in many ways through the world. So if you're living those values, if the choices you're making are aligning with those values, then you're not failing at anything.
I think it also requires a longer perspective too. You know?
Yeah,
where it's like
things to happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, I wanted to do this and it didn't happen on this timeline. When we're rethinking our perceptions of failure and success, I think it really requires you to have just a lifelong learning mentality, that like you always have things to learn, so there's always going to be things that you quote unquote fail at. I think that's a very humbling mentality. never perceive of yourself as like the master.
Mm-hmm.
You've already figured everything out. Also kind of a relinquishing of control too, because even if you do have things figured out, there's so much that's outside of your control. So things won't go to plan, and just being okay with that.
I think if you believe in some sort of, God or fate in the universe and its plan for you rather than your plan for it, then you end up just kind of being grateful for anything, the failures and the success. Because within those things are the learning and the change.
So we just try. It's really all that we can do. Try and fail and learn and try again. Maybe we're not always running gracefully towards our dreams and goals. Maybe it looks more like an awkward stumbling at times. But we're moving, learning, growing, and all the while we're becoming more and more resilient. Sure and confident about what we want out of life and also what we want to contribute to life. What do we want to create and bring into being? What makes us alive? What makes us sing? What brings us peace? How can the pursuit of that possibly be a failure? Oh, this looks cool. Yeah. Ooh. That's a pretty one too. Yeah, this one was really small, but I feel like it had the most color, yeah.
And it's not bad.
If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Bren's free newsletter. It comes out every Sunday. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Corn is hard. We'll try again though.